All right. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of. Well, I guess this really isn't an another exciting episode of anything. Um, you may notice something that has not appeared on my channel in a very long time, which is the Streamy Streams with TJ logo, which is what I used to call my streams way back when I first started streaming. I wanted to have a catchy name, and so I called it Streamy Streams or TJ. And I do this really annoying bit for the entire time I use this name, where I'd get really close to the camera because I use the microphone in my webcam at that point, and I'd go, Streamy Streams with TJ, where tonight we're going to be looking at the wild, adventurous world of Dungeons and Dragons. And try and be all sexy. And it always came off as super creepy. However, I don't have another overlay for something like this set up already. So I just went with what I already had. So that's what the whole Streamy Streams with TJ thing is. If I start streaming regularly, again, other than my D&D games that I stream on Wednesday nights at this time normally, I will probably build a new overlay for that. But yeah, as of right now, you guys get to deal with a really bad joke that I continued playing for 2 years. Like, if you go to my YouTube channel and check out all the Streamy Streams of TJ, like every single one of them, except for a few where I was like ill, almost every single one of them, I would do that really stupid joke. So yeah, what we're gonna do tonight? Well, you guys see a character sheet in front of you. You can't see my mouse cursor because that's the way I set it up on purpose, obviously. But yeah, I've got a D&D character sheet in front of me. I actually have another. I've got an Open Legend character sheet. If we want to get into that as well. And tonight I am going to be building characters, and not just building characters, but specifically focusing on techniques about how you can use the built-in systems in the game itself to help you to develop a backstory, to help you develop motivations for the character and things like that, so that you can have a really good role-playing experience as opposed to just like a mechanically powerful character. So if you're looking for min-maxing tips, this is not the stream you want to watch. I may one day, because I've been DMing for I think 5 years now, something like that. Anyway, and not only did I do I DM, like, games between friends and stuff like that. I used to work for a convention, or I volunteered for a convention. I organized all their Adventure League stuff. I used to be a local coordinator for the Adventure League, and so I would go to various conventions and run games for them. So I have run just a crap ton of D&D specifically D&D 5e. I probably have like easily 3,000 or 4,000 hours worth of DM experience running just 5th edition. And because I used to do it at conventions and stuff like that, you find a lot of min-maxers at conventions, because they're conventions and stuff like that. The way the Adventure League works is you play adventures, and then any magic items, experience, gold, stuff like that that your character earns, they get to keep, and then they can go and play any adventure that their character qualifies for. Which generally just means the character is the right level for that adventure, and they haven't played it already. So every time convention play is super fun. I really wish I could still do it, but agoraphobia doesn't let me. But convention play is really fun because you just sit down with a random group of strangers with a random assortment of players, and character types and everything like that, and then you try and beat an adventure, and it's always really interesting and fun. But you get a lot of min-maxers. You get a lot of min-maxers, and as a DM, I had to deal with min-maxers on a fairly regular basis. So as much as I don't min-max myself, in general, I know how to do it very well because I've been exposed to it so often that I know the tricks, and I know how to misinterpret. You know, I know the spells and the abilities and things like that that overlap really, really well, or are really easy to misread, or were errataed out. And if someone is using an old player's handbook, they'll go, no, 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 no. It says here in the player's handbook, blah, blah, and I'll be able to go, no, there's an errata that fixed that because that was a misprint or that was this or that. So yeah, I know all that stuff. So I may one day do like a min-maxing stream where I just show you how to make these just super stupid broken characters. But that's not this stream. This is all going to be about building characters with interesting backgrounds and backstories, based on my experience as an actor. I could be considered a classically trained actor. I went to school for it. I had an agent at one point. I actually got paid to do it at one point. So I am a professional actor. It was $10 an hour and I was an extra, but they paid me, so I'm a professional. So yeah, like I spent years of my life learning and perfecting the craft of acting, and I use it when I DM, and I use it the few times that I get to. I use it when I play my characters as well. And I'm starting up a brand new campaign, not next week, but the week after. I will have a brand new custom campaign that's starting on the channel. And so they're building new characters, and I figured this would just be a good time, first of all, to give them plenty of time to build their characters, and give me plenty of time to kind of create the world that we're doing it. Because the new campaign is actually going to be set in the same world as my other campaign, but it's on a completely different continent, and it may or may not be set in a different time period, just so I don't have to worry about the parties interacting. You'll have to watch the stream in order to figure that out. But so yeah, if anyone has questions or anything, I have chat up. I'm going to be looking at chat often, and I'm going to actually put this in a place that I can see. So yeah, if you have questions or you want to see me build, you want to see me build a specific class or specific, use a specific background or something like that, just type in chat. I will use as much of you guys' input as I can, and then, like I said, this is what I do for fun. Like back in 4th edition, I used to just if I was bored, I would just build characters. And I've done it a few times in 5th edition, though it's not quite as much fun to build the characters in 5th edition as it was in 4th edition, because they had this really cool character builder from Wizards that I loved. And I've done it with Open Legend. I've just sat there building characters just for fun. So this is because I'm very strange and bizarre. This is what I do for fun. So the first thing we're going to do. So I'm going to start off with 5th edition D&D, partially because 5e is really built well for role-playing itself. Like 4th edition somewhat had a role-playing focus, but it was much more encounter-based, and not like completely combat. Like they had this really cool thing called, what were they called now? Skills challenges, which were basically non-combat encounters, but you still got experience. It was very similar. Like you'd still be an initiative and stuff like that, but instead of having monsters you'd have to attack, you'd have a trap or a puzzle you'd have to solve, or and you could make it time-based. It was really, really cool. I loved skills challenges. I use them in my 5th edition games. So 4th edition had a little bit more of that role-playing with their background feature. And then when you get to 3rd edition was a combat simulator. Pathfinder's the same way. It's a combat simulator that you could role-play in. Don't get me wrong. You can role-play in it. But the majority of the system was built around combat. And if you look at all the rules and minutiae in it, that's what it is. But 5th edition is really designed to be good as a combat simulator, so you can have fun in combat, to be good as a role-playing experience, because they almost force you to have a background and a story for your character before they became an adventurer. And then you still have, the 3 pillars of 5e or combat, role-playing, and I think exploration is the other one. And so there's also like these really cool worlds that you can kind of inhabit and live in. So yeah. So I'm gonna start just with standard. I totally put the wrong thing up. Yeah, standard player's handbook. And I'm just gonna pick a class at random. There's 13 of them, if I remember correctly. Before I say the wrong thing. Yeah, I have 4,000 hours. Of course I have them all memorized. 12? Is there only 12? Maybe there's only 12. Yes, there's 12. And I, of course, know that, being an expert dungeon master. So I gotta move some crap around so I can actually do this. So all I'm going to do for the first part, unless somebody has a specific class that they want me to use, the first character I'm going to build entirely at random. I am simply going to roll a die, and that's going to choose. I'm going to use die rolls to choose my race, my class, background, personality traits, all that stuff. It's all going to be randomized. And I'm going to show you guys how. Just given a random set of stuff that you have no control over whatsoever, you can still make this really compelling character backstory type thing if you just kind of look into a few different things. So we're going to start off with I should probably start with race. So I got to see what kind of dice I need to use for this. Hold, please. So use a D10 for race. So you start with race. Okay. So I'm going to move this mic a little bit. Numero 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Dragonborn. All right, so the race is going to be Dragonborn. All right, now, with Dragonborn, I don't believe there's a sub-race. Unlike most of the races, they'll have like a sub-race that you get to pick. Dragonborn, you just get to pick a color. And I'm a huge fan of green, so we're going to make this a green Dragonborn. Green Dragonborn, which basically just changes. I'll move this back closer. Green Dragonborn just basically changes the breath weapon that they have. So now we're going to go with a class, and I need a D12 for that. So we have a Dragonborn, and just so that I have a memory, strength score by 2, charisma by 1. So what I'm going to do is just put +2 here, go down to charisma and go +1 here, just so I remember I don't have to reference back the proficiency or the attribute bonuses that particular race gets. So now let's choose a class. I'm going to roll a d12 because there's 12 classes. I got a 7. 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. Paladin. Dragonborn Paladin. always a nice, cool combo. Which actually doesn't hurt because I believe paladins use charisma for their spellcasting. I'll look real quick. Just because I'm doing everything randomly doesn't mean I don't want the character to actually be useful in combat. Monk. Monks are awesome, guys. Spellcasting. Come on. Do. Yep, so they are charisma based. So, kind of useful being a Dragonborn Paladin. And then for the background, I'm not sure how I'm going to randomize the background because there are a ton of backgrounds. 125 is what I need. All right. So 1. Really? Does it go A to C? 1, 2. See, if I was a really good streamer, I would have prepared this ahead of time. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So there are 13 backgrounds. So I'm going to just roll a d20, and anything above a 13, I'm going to re-roll for my background. So let's get a random background in here. I got a 4. Back to, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Entertainer. So the background for this is Entertainer. And then let's even go far enough as to randomly do alignment here. I'm just going to roll a d10, with a 10 being a reroll, and it going across the top on the alignment grid. So 1, 2, 3. So 1 is lawful good, 9 is chaotic evil. And I get a 7. So lawful evil. All right. So that is the basics of the character. We have the class. Doesn't really matter the level. We're just going to call him a level 1 character. Doesn't matter. We have the class. We have the race. We have the background. We have the alignment. And now we're going to go to the aspect of 5th edition that really, really encourages role-playing in general. And for this particular character, I'm really going to focus on these 4 sections here. For building the backstory. There's a lot of different ways you can build a backstory, and so for this character specifically, I'm going to base it off of the these 4 here, with a little bit of everything else that we've decided in there. So I'm going to open up to the Entertainer again. That's way too far. I need like another desk or something here, so I can have this open. So, Entertainer routines. One of the things is what exactly they do as an entertainer. Because they are a lawful evil character, I'm not going to randomize this because there is a variant on the entertainer that I think works really, really well with what we already have here, which is a gladiator. It's... instead of being, a storyteller or something like that, they entertain people through combat. And so a character themselves that, paladins are a melee class with a little bit of spellcasting mixed in with them. He's lawful evil. Gladiator makes sense. So we're going to put entertainer. I don't know if this sheet's going to let me do it, but I'm going to try it. Gladiator. Yeah, and it'll shrink the text. So entertainer, gladiator. So now we know that, and then I'm going to roll randomly for traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. So again, all of this stuff is just being decided randomly by dice rolling. That's a 3. Wow, this is going to be an interesting one to do. So the personality trait is... So the personality trait for this lawful evil gladiator is I'm a hopeless romantic, always looking for that special someone. And I wish I was making this up, but that is, yeah, that's exactly what it is. So their ideal is going to be 1, which is beauty, which is going to be weird. The ideal is beauty. How do they phrase that in here? So that is the ideal. The bond. And I'll go into more information about what all this stuff means in just a second, but I'm just trying to get through this part. And I'm going to change this slightly. It's normally someone stole my precious instrument. I'm going to say, because they're a gladiator, someone stole my precious weapon. Because it makes more sense for entertainer gladiator to have a weapon. And someday I'll get it back. Which is already giving us a bit of a backstory right there with the bond. And then flaws. Flaws are really what define your character more than anything else. I love a flawed character. And so we're going to go with 1. All right, then. I think that's how you spell renown, isn't it? No. Sure, we'll go with that. All right, so that's the basics of our character. So to change this from a bunch of random stuff into a character that actually exists in the world, I'm going to start with just these 4 bits right here. The personality traits, the ideal, the bond, and the flaw. Now, when you're building your character, you don't have to choose just one. In the player's handbook, they have suggested characteristics under every single background. And that's where I got these from, is they have it so you can just roll on a table for each one of these things. You don't have to pick just one. In any of these categories. You could have multiple personality traits, you could have multiple ideals, multiple bonds, or multiple flaws. I just do one of each because it's simple and it takes less time for the most part. And you don't technically have to use the ones that are under the suggested characteristics of the background you chose. Again, it's designed to help, but you don't have to. And you can make up your own as well, which we'll do a little bit later as we start getting to some of the more, I guess you could call it, advanced techniques. But personality trait is basically that. It's something that kind of defines your personality. This one, hopeless romantic. This particular person is, always looking for a special someone. They're very much that idealized. There's always a person, for everybody. So that's going to be kind of a driving force in their life. Ideals are things that you hold close, things that you think are intrinsically true, that are part of your makeup. So the ideal here is beauty, and specifically for the entertainer, when I perform and make the world better than it was. That sounds weird when you think of a lawful evil character whose ideal is beauty, but we can make sense of that without too much difficulty. Bonds are things that your character is forced to do, something that kind of traps your character for some reason. They can be voluntary bonds, involuntary bonds, but they're something that makes you beholden to something else. Person, object, whatever. The bond for this particular character is somebody stole something precious for them. Someday they'll get it back. So that's something that we can instantly go, oh, I've got part of my backstory already. Part of the backstory is I'm going to lose a precious weapon, something that is very personal to me. And it was personal enough that now it is a bond. I feel that I must get this back eventually. So that's what bonds are. And then flaws are exactly what they sound like. They are things that trip your character up, that make them do the wrong thing. In general, again, I as an actor, I played a lot of bad guys, and the flaws are what really define any character. But really, bad guys are defined by their flaws, and that's what makes them interesting, because the flaws will make you make the choice that's not optimal as far as combat is concerned, but will make your character's flaw feel better. So a flaw should always be negative. One of the things that I've had people that play in my games, I force them to write relatively extensive backstories, and by that I mean generally I expect about a page worth of backstory for their character before I allow them to play in one of my custom games. And one of the things I focus on is that your character has to have some sort of a flaw in it. Perfect characters are boring. They really are. Whether they're heroes or villains, characters with no flaws are super, super boring. And one of the things that I've seen people fall into a trap with is their flaw will be something like, my flaw is that I'm such a quick wit that gets me into trouble. That's not a flaw. What you're basically saying is, I am so good at insulting people. My flaw is I'm really good at insulting people. That's not a flaw. That is your character. That is a personality trait. That is a positive trait of your character. I'm so good at this thing that it sometimes gets me into trouble. No. A flaw should be a negative aspect of your character. Your character, whether or not they're consciously aware of it or not, it should be something that hurts the character, doesn't help it. And yes, theoretically, that person that makes quips when they're not supposed to, that could get them into trouble. But it's kind of like being, oh, well, my flaw is I am so cool that I always do the cool thing instead of, the right thing. That's not a flaw. If you do want to be that person that says things that they're not supposed to, as your flaw, it should be something to the effect of, I have, an inability to read the room well and often say the wrong thing at the wrong time. That is a flaw. It's not that I'm so good at something that it sometimes gets me into trouble. It's I have this thing that limits me in my abilities somehow. So this, I'll do anything to win fame and renown, actually kind of fits the idea of I'm so cool that I do cool things and sometimes get in trouble. No, again, that's a positive trait. I'm so good at this. No. But the flip side of it is I'll do anything to win fame and renown. I will I will go out of my way. I will do stupid things if I think it will make me famous or make me more well known. And that is a flaw because again, you're going to make poor choices and stuff like that. You'll pick fights with people you shouldn't because if you can beat them, you're gonna be real famous. Or you'll pick up causes that you shouldn't because if you can that are pointless, or you'll root for the underdog even though the underdog is evil, or you'll join the wrong side of battle simply because you'll get more famous on that side because it looks like they're going to win, and losers don't get famous. So we have these four things. We have hopeless romantic, focus on beauty, somebody stole their weapon, and they'll do anything to win fame and renown. They're a gladiator. They're lawful evil. I did do a little rant on my channel about the alignment grid in D&D and how a lot of people misunderstand it. And this is a perfect example of it. When people hear the word evil, they instantly assume bad. I'm playing a bad guy. If I'm playing an evil character, I'm playing a bad guy, which is not true. The two axes, whatever that is, in D&D are lawful versus chaotic and good versus evil. Lawful versus chaotic is a little bit more in line with the words and the connotations behind them. Lawful generally tends to seek order, where chaotic tends to seek freedom. So it actually would be a little bit more accurate to be order versus freedom. And good and evil is not I do good things or I do bad things. Good is selfless. You're constantly thinking about the betterment of mankind and things like that. And the more quote unquote good you are, the more selfless you are on the alignment grid. Evil is selfish. They're very self-motivated. They're going to do whatever is good for them. So this idea of beauty, a lot of people would think, well, and even in the player's handbook, it's listed as a good ideal. It would be linked with a good character, is this idea of beauty. Doesn't have to be. We have a lawful evil character, meaning they like order in general. So they like chain of command, they like order, rule of law type stuff. But they're evil, so they are self-motivated. So they like order and everything like that as long as it applies to them. And then when you apply beauty to that, you can focus it again on the evil aspect of the character. And this ideal can turn them basically into kind of a very vain person. They are self-motivated. So beauty, when I perform, I make the world better than it was. You can interpret that as when I perform in combat, the dance of death that, I perform is beautiful in its own right. And they find beauty in combat and things like that, specifically because it's something that they enjoy and they are good at. Again, that evil, selfish, self-motivated person, they're going to, their ideals are going to be focused on themselves. As much as I make the world better than it was, I make the world better than it was because of my selfish interests. So again, when you're using alignment and ideals and stuff like that, mix them in there. You can interpret, these are intentionally written as very vague, so you can do that. So we've already decided, and I'm going to go all the way down to the second page. We've already decided that he likes the beauty of combat and death. Okay? Lawful evil character, likes the beauty of combat and death. Works for me. We're going to go back up. So you've got that in there. Hopeless romantic, always looking for that someone special. With a lawful evil character, again, lawful order, they like rules, they like tradition, things like that. evil, self-focused. I'm a hopeless romantic, always looking for that special someone. Um, I am going to interpret that. You don't have to interpret it like this. I am going to interpret it as um, something along the idea of my beauty is unrivaled and I deserve. Wow, I can't even type. So this is going to be a very, very, very interesting character. My beauty is unrivaled. Again, beauty, combat, and all that stuff. We're gonna fold that in here. But I deserve to find the woman who was placed on this world for me. Again, when you look at this, I'm a hopeless romantic, always looking for that someone special. That sounds like a very positive, oh, it's so romantic. When you look at it through the lens of lawful evil, and a very self-motivated person, a very selfish person, you can get this this is a very stalker-ish, abusive kind of mentality, which is fine for a fictional character. If this is how you view the world, you may wish to seek some professional help. But this is a great kind of flawed view of the world and view of a personality trait that a very self-focused person would have. You know, this idea of hopeless romantic, they're going to take it, well, there's someone in the world for everybody, that hopeless romantic. There's a special someone just for me who is placed on this world specifically for me. And again, very selfish motivated. I am looking for the person who their purpose is to be my love interest. Not I'm looking for that special someone that I can spend the rest of my life with. No, again, evil character, selfish, self-motivated. The purpose of this other person is they were put on this world for me. It's a very dark interpretation of it, but I think it fits with the character. And again, it can create some very, very interesting, very dark stuff. Playing an evil character is really, really difficult. So now we have someone stole my precious weapon and someday I'll get it back. That doesn't need a whole lot of translation. We can just say, we can say one day in the arena, I lost because PEC. Wow, I can spell. Tremors are fun to type with, folks. My opponent cheated. It wasn't my fault I lost. It was someone else's fault. This is a very common thing for self-motivated people, especially if they have issues seeing their own flaws and things like that. Is my opponent cheated, so I lost. I'm turning this guy into a very narcissistic, kind of person, which is fine. But so I lost because my opponent cheated, and instead of killing me, he stole my prized greatsword. Because we're gonna make this a probably a vengeance paladin. I'll make that 2 words if it makes you happier. So when in the arena, I lost because my opponent cheated. Again, coming into that selfish, and we've already kind of established that this character has a narcissistic tendency to him. Likes the beauty of combat and death that he creates. He finds himself to be very attractive. and deserves. That's another very, very dangerous thing to have as far as your mindset. I deserve to find the woman who is placed on this world for me. So again, very narcissistic, very self-motivated. And then we have this here where I'm just leaning really, really hard into the narcissism here because, again, I think it fits the character, and I think it creates an interesting character. I lost because my opponent cheated. This is all told from the character's viewpoint, and characters can be what's called the unreliable narrator, where they're telling you a story, but because it's from their viewpoint, they see it differently than it actually happened. So it's possible the opponent did actually cheat, or it's possible that this is an example of the unreliable narrator. And he just came up with this, my opponent cheated, to justify the fact that he lost. Because, again, very self-motivated, very narcissistic, which is, again, different from being self-motivated. Narcissistic is an extreme version. Narcissism in general, an extreme version of self-motivated, where you feel so superior to other people that your needs take precedent over other people's needs simply because you are a superior being. So he stole my prized greatsword. I'm gonna get it back. So we've got that. We've got one last part to put in. I'll do anything for fame and renown. And that we can really bring back into why they became a gladiator. Is that so we have a green dragonborn, green dragons themselves. Chromatic dragons are evil aligned in general, so lawful evil is not that crazy. Paladins serve a deity. I am going to just go to the back of the book here and look at the various deities they have in the player's handbook. All right. D for deity. Indexes are useful, folks. 293. All right, so Gods of the Multiverse. We are just going to use Deities of the Forgotten Realms, just because that's the one that most people are familiar with. That's what the Adventure League plays in. And I'm actually going to look for a lawful evil deity. Lawful good. Loviatar. Ooh, that's an interesting one. Is she the only lawful evil one? No. Bane. Oh, Bane is great. So for those of you who don't know, Bane is the god of tyranny in the Forgotten Realms. I'm going to put in somewhere around here. Character backstory. That's where I'm just putting notes in this area. I'm just going to go follower of Bane. So Bane is the god of tyranny. He's a lawful evil deity. His domain that he tends to control is war. So you have a follower of Bane. He's a paladin of Bane, lawful evil deity. He'll do anything to win fame and renown. He follows Bane, who's all about tyranny and subjugation of people. So this is what it's turning into. And these are the little notes that we've taken already. I'm going to just take these. I'm going to cut them out of there. I'm going to put them in here just so I have them there. And then I'm going to start writing this backstory. Is it Mulmaster? I believe so. Yes. So in the Adventure League during season, I think it's 2 or 3, I believe it's 2 of the D&D Adventure League, all the Adventure League adventures were set in the city of Mulmaster, which is it's in the Forgotten Realms. It's in the Sword Coast, or it's not on the Sword Coast. It's actually over miles and miles and miles inland around Hillsfar and all these other cities, and I can't remember. It's the Sea of Stars, I think it is. Something about that. Anyway, Mulmaster, during the campaign, the Church of Bane basically runs Mulmaster during that part of the campaign. So we're going to say he was born in Mulmaster. There's an arena in Hillsfar. So we're going to say he was born in Mulmaster. And this is just taking the stuff that we've already decided. We've come up with all this stuff, and now we're just kind of filling in the blanks to make it make sense in the world that we're creating this character in, which in this specific case is in the Forgotten Realms. So he was born in Mulmaster to parents who worked for the Church of Bane, brought up as a Baneite, which is what they're called. Wow, I cannot. And then and then what I like to do is I like to have like 2 or 3 kind of defining moments throughout their life that really kind of cement them onto the path that they choose. And the first defining moment really should shift you into your background, your chosen background as far as entertainer gladiator, that particular thing. There should be a defining moment that does that. And for this character, we're going to say that got into a fight one day with some Zents. The Zentarum live in a slum, basically, area of Mulmaster. They are they're second-class citizens. Again, bringing aspects of the world into my character's backstory that already exist. So, got into a fight one day with some Zents. So this would be a very common thing. They are discriminated against a group of people. Nobody likes the Zentarum because they're an evil organization that's done some really, really bad stuff in the past. So they now live in kind of the slums of the city. So got in a fight one day with some Zents. Took them, wow, still can't spell. Took them all out by my, really? My Slef. I cannot spell at all, guys. This is really, really scary that this is how well I do. Took them all out by myself. During the fight, felt more alive than any other point in my life, and loved the beauty of the battle. So you have this kid growing up in Mulmaster. Parents work for the Church of Bane, so he's brought up worshiping the god of tyranny, a god that enjoys subjugation, enjoys warfare for the idea of ruling over people. He sees a group of basically poor people, decides to pick a fight with them, takes them all out, and the adrenaline rush and everything like that is incredibly addictive. And he finds that he has this incredible appreciation for combat. If you've ever actually seen master martial artists fight. And that could be like, anything from like, Olympic level, like Taekwondo masters, all the way to like really, really good boxers. Same basic thing. What they're doing is not like throwing punches and stuff like that. It is a very intellectual thing. You can see them thinking and trying to outwit their opponent and things like that. That is intrinsic to mastery of any sort of fighting style or any sort of martial art. And so this character specifically has a deep appreciation for the beauty that is combat. And again, that doesn't technically have to be a negative thing, but again, with their self-focus and everything like that, and the fact that they are very much focused, we're gonna decide that this character is very much focused on, well, combat's only beautiful when I'm winning, and if I'm not winning, then we already mentioned the thing over here. My opponent cheated. That wasn't beautiful combat because he didn't win. So obviously the opponent cheated. The combat wasn't beautiful, so it wasn't, the thing that he liked. And so there we go. Now we have what's called a motivation for the character to become a gladiator. They decide that they will do anything. Again, we've already established, I'll do anything to win fame and renown. They like combat and things like that, and you can win a lot of fame and renown in a gladiatorial arena. Now, the closest arena is in Hillsfar, which is a few days' journey away. Again, this is all stuff in the Forgotten Realms. This is all stuff that you just do a little bit of research into the world that you're playing, which if you're playing in a custom world, your DM should be able to give you at least a little bit, even for a brand new world, even if they only have a little town built. Talk to your DM or your GM and go, hey, listen, this is what I'm looking at. Is there an arena type thing, or is there something, is there a fight club or something that we could write into the story? And they should be able to work with you to be able to do this. Luckily enough for me, the Forgotten Realms is so well documented that I can look up anything. So the closest arena is in Hillsfar. At this particular point in history, Hillsfar is incredibly xenophobic. Non-humans are not allowed in the city. With this person being a dragonborn, they would not be allowed in the city. And if they are ever caught in the city, they are forced into the arena until they die. That's what's going on in Hillsfar at this particular moment. While the Church of Bane is taking over Mulmaster, Hillsfar is becoming this super xenophobic society. So he does something kind of stupid. He voluntarily goes into the arena because, again, he craves battle. He loves the beauty of combat. And the arena is going to make him very, very famous. Because as much as the humans that are watching are going to see him as a lesser creature, he's a gladiator, not, someone worth caring about. If he continues to win and stuff like that, people are still going to cheer for him and things like that, and he's going to feel that rush of fame and that. So he makes a poor decision to become a gladiator, and wow, my brain just left. It gives him his reason to become his background, become his gladiator. Now we need a story point, a defining moment in his life that changes him from gladiator to adventurer. Because again, gladiator never gets to leave the arena. But an adventurer gets to go on adventures and go with a party and stuff like that. So we need to take him from gladiator to adventurer. And that is literally just this part here. One day in the arena, I lost because my opponent cheated. Instead of killing me, he stole my prized greatsword. I'm going to get it back. So he's decided, so we're going to, after surviving and thriving for years in the arena of I changed. I was defeated by a cheater who, instead of taking my life, took my prized great sword. And let's call it, because again, being a gladiator, everything like that, he would have named, even if it's not a magic weapon, he would have named it. Let's call it, Dragon's Reach. We're just going to call it Dragon's Reach. It's a great sword, so it's a big weapon. We're going to call it Dragon's Reach because it's got a wide reach. He's a dragonborn. Sounds cool. He took my prized great sword, Dragon's Reach. I can't live with the humiliation of not only being bested by a cheater, but of losing my favored weapon. So I escaped the arena and now search the world for my sword and its current owner to end his life. Or actually, to make it even better, to end her life. Because I like the idea of this this very self-focused, narcissistic dragonborn who's very, very strong and physically like this huge person, being bested by a girl. To be blunt, I love the idea that there was this really great female gladiator that not only was able to beat him in combat, but was smart enough to realize that killing him was not the worst thing that she could do to him. The worst thing that she could do to him was leave him alive and take his sword. So I really like the idea of not just being, this big evil dude. No, it's we don't actually know anything about this character. We only know his opinion of this character. So it could be that this character could be kind of a wise man stereotype where she saw his future or knew something about him and knew that if he remained in the arena, there were events in the world that were going to happen that he needed to be out of the arena. So she gave him the perfect reason, the only reason he would ever leave, which is she stole his sword. Or it could be a billion other things. Again, that you can actually leave up to your DM. Because again, we have what's called an unreliable narrator here. You're only hearing one side of the story from the narcissist. So he's going to make up stuff to make him sound good and the other person sound bad because that's how he views the world. And now we have a motivation for the character to go out. And just to give them, because the other thing you need is a motivation for them to group up with a party to do stuff. And that motivation, especially for self-focused characters and evil characters, can be, I now use my incredible combat skills to earn enough to live off of while I search for my nemesis. So that's what we have. This is the character we have created from rolling random dice. And we haven't even actually put in any of the attribute scores, because in this particular instance, the background doesn't really need them. We will eventually, if I was going to play this character, I would eventually put all these things in. But as of right now, this is exactly what we're. This is all we need. We didn't actually need the attribute scores to make a really kind of interesting, compelling backstory. They're born in Mulmaster. Their church worship a lawful evil deity, which is why they are lawful evil. That's what they grew up with. That was their upbringing. They were brought up to understand that succeeding over other people and ruling over other people is something that should be praised and worshipped. That's what Bane is all about, god of tyranny. And then as part of that, he found an oppressed group, decided to lord over them by using his physical strength against them, and discovered that he had a love for combat itself, and that we don't really bring the personality trait specifically into it, beyond the fact that we use that to kind of justify his narcissism. And that personality trait can still come up just randomly during the campaign, where he can just find someone and go, that woman, that or man or whatever. Again, D&D is meant to be interpreted whatever way that you want it to be. That person was put on this world for me to be my partner. That can be another kind of character growth arc that they can go through. So yeah, that's literally just using randomly rolled stuff. We turned it into this, and now we have a character that has very strong motivations. When they're given certain situations, they're going to do whatever is going to give them the most glory and honor and renown. Because they are lawful evil, they probably do have an honor code to a point. And the idea that they understand the idea of cheating would imply that there is kind of a set of rules or something like that that they would think about. So yeah, like again, that was me randomly just rolling dice and creating someone off of that. So I am going to very quickly look to see if we have the pupils. If anyone has any questions or comments, or wants me to build a specific character or something like that, let me know in chat. I have chat open right now, so I can see what's going on. But yeah, so again, just by looking at the tools that they already gave us, we can create this really kind of interesting backstory by applying those 4 things that are already in the system to the world that we're creating the character in, which in this case is Forgotten Realms. So yeah, I think it's a pretty cool character. I think they would be tough to play because, again, playing any evil aligned character is really tough to do, because a lot of people think, oh, I'm evil, that means I have to do picking a secret based on your backstory. Good question, Wild Bronco 38. How do you go about picking a secret based on your backstory? Well, all a secret is something that you know that they don't. And due to the fact that we haven't, we're still going to use this character. We haven't actually put this into their backstory yet. We can put that the secret is, according to everyone else, he is looking for his nemesis. However, secretly, I believe Bane has put her on Bane's younger brother. This world for me to. best and make my wife. So, it's literally just all a secret is something that that you know that other people don't. So theoretically, any part of the backstory could be a secret. You could say, you could have the, you could have the fact that he's looking for Dragon's Reach because he was bested be a secret, because he's ashamed that he was bested. You could have, in this particular case, he keeps telling everyone that he's out to kill this woman, when in all actuality, he wants to dominate this woman, basically. He wants to best her in combat because he believes that she is the woman that's been placed on this world for him. And in order to earn her, again, very self-motivated person, so he's going to view her as an object. In order to own her, he has to best her. He has to be worthy of her. So you can do it that way. Let's see. What else? A secret is just something that you know that everybody else doesn't. It should, in general, a secret should be something that motivates you in some way. So, a good secret is not, well, my middle name is Melvin, because that's not really going to motivate you to do anything. It's just going to kind of be there to, be a fun fact that nobody knows, that if you guys ever play Truth or Dare, maybe you'll find out. No, your secret should make you react in certain ways. So the secret that I kind of picked here, after you mentioned it, would mean that in combat with his nemesis, everyone would think he would go all out to try and kill her. But again, because he believes that this person's been put on the world by Bane to be his wife, and that he deserves her and has to prove his worthiness of her, he's not going to kill her. He's not going to fight all out and stuff like that, because then he's going to kill the one person on this world that was put on there specifically for him. And that's going to change the way that he interacts in combat. That's going to change the way that he interacts with this person, with people that have information about this person. If he finds out that, this person has a price on their head and somebody is going to go assassinate them, he might kill the assassin, which would technically be considered, kind of a good thing, because he's helping out someone else by saving their life, simply because secretly he wants to marry this woman. A good secret really should be something that affects your motivations, that affects your actions. So if we go back to the idea that the secret is he was defeated in the arena, he didn't leave willingly or something like that, that would be another thing that could provide a lot of motivation, because he would go to great lengths to avoid Hillsfar in general, because that's where people know he was bested. He might go so far as to silence anyone that said otherwise. He might even go as far as to call people that claim that he lost a liar, try to kill them, all these other things. Again, a secret that motivates him to do something, or a secret that motivates him to take some sort of action is really what you want when you have a secret for your character. If the secret is just some random fact, then there's really no point to it. Everything in your backstory, the whole purpose of the backstory is to give you motivation for your character, to justify role-playing moments, and to give you kind of a basis for you to make decisions based on role-playing. So all of those are different ways to make your to kind of choose a secret. But again, it's simply something that you know that other people don't. So literally any part. It could be, it could even be that his parents are members of the Church of Bane. Bane is not a well-loved god on Faerun, surprisingly enough. The god of tyranny not, on most people's top 10 list. Despite the fact that he is a paladin of Bane, he may hide, that may be his secret, is he's a vengeance paladin, and he just never talks about who his deity is. He simply goes, no, this is what I'm going to do, and doesn't want anybody to know that he's a follower of Bane. That's another really good secret because, again, as a follower of Bane, he's going to be all about tyranny and subjugating people and things like that. And if nobody knows that he's a follower of Bane, the actions that he's going to take are going to seem very odd for a paladin to do. Because they're going, wait a minute, you're a paladin. Why are you trying to, take over control of this town and get them to pay you tribute? That doesn't make any sense. Well, obviously it makes sense because we protected the town. We should be rewarded for it, something like that. Again, all based on the idea of your secret should have something, have some effect on how you play the character, and it should raise questions with the other members of your party. They should go, that's interesting, because it creates more interesting storytelling. It creates more, it creates conflict, and storytelling is just like music. Music is all about tension and resolution. Every song in the world is built on the idea that you have harmony and dissonance, and the resolution of dissonance into harmony feels good. And so every song in the world will have a point of dissonance. It will get resolved into harmony, and then it'll go, and you'll just have this repeating pattern of dissonance to harmony, dissonance to harmony. The same is true about storytelling. You have conflict and resolution. And that is what drives storytelling, is some sort of conflict that get resolved in some way, shape, or form. And so creating conflict, not so much creating combat, but creating conflict, creating opposing ideas, opposing viewpoints, something that the characters have to overcome, is what drives a story along. If everything is always working in their way, and all the characters are always working, the exact same way for the exact same prize every single time, and everybody always agrees with each other, there's no conflict, there's no story. You just have, blah. So, yes. Did that answer your question at all, Wild Bronco 38? Yeah, let me know if I'm very long-winded in my answers. So let me know if in that very long-winded answer I didn't actually answer your question. Yeah, because we have a slight delay, I'm going to wait for a little bit to see if Wild Bronco has an idea. And again, looking at this, the majority of the character sheet is not even filled out because we don't even need it. Cool. Very, very happy to have helped with that. So like I said, the majority of the character sheet is not even filled out at this point because we don't need it for the backstory. We don't need to know their strength score in order to create a really interesting backstory. We don't need to know their hit points. We don't need to know their armor class or what equipment they're using or anything like that. Beyond the fact that he probably has a greatsword that he uses in combat. We're going to, because of his background, we know that he uses a greatsword. Beyond that, it's entirely up to you. If you want him, again, because he uses a greatsword, he's probably going to do strength and charisma are going to be relatively high for him because he's a paladin. And then everything else is entirely up to you, however you want to play the character. You could give him a very high intelligence score and make him, again, a lot of people don't realize narcissists in general tend to be very intelligent because they tend to be highly manipulative. So you could make this an incredibly intelligent character, or you could make them an incredibly wise character. Because intelligence is going to be book smarts and things like that, and so they can use all of this different information, to get what they want. Wisdom is going to be street smarts. this character could be just really good at insight and being able to read people, and that's how they manipulate, and that's how they keep their narcissism. And they could be dumb as a bag of rocks, but they're very, very intuitive, and that makes up for their lack of intelligence. Constitution in general, I always tend to say Constitution should probably be your third highest stat, if not second, just because it's hit points. And as much as I'll try not to focus too much on mechanics and stuff like that, more hit points are good. More hit points are always good. And then again, dexterity with a paladin, you can lowball dexterity too if you want. He can be kind of clumsy, where he's just this big kind of I solve everything by swinging my greatsword kind of person, because they can wear heavy armor, which isn't actually really helped by a dexterity score. So yeah, yeah. So if that's good for you guys, I am going to go a different route for our next character. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of everything here. And I'm going to do the exact opposite thing that I did before. And I'm actually going to start with the attributes and go from there. And I'm going to do something that I normally don't do. I am notoriously bad at rolling. So I never roll my own stats. I use point buy, or I use standard array. And more often than not, it's a standard array. Because if I roll my stats, I am going to be worthless. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. So what I'm going to do, I have more dice. I only have 1d6 in front of me right now, but I have more dice in here. I'm actually going to roll each one of the stats, and I'm going to build a character based entirely on their attributes, and show you guys how you can kind of build a backstory just based on attributes. So if you guys don't mind, I will be right back, because I actually have to get some more d6s. So I will be right back. Please enjoy this view of a character sheet. Also, I needed to drink something because I was dying. Be right back. Okay, I have returned. So, there's a couple different ways that you can roll your attributes. The one that I tend to prefer, just because it allows for someone like me who gets bad rolls a lot, it makes it easier for them to be able to do it, is this is in the player's handbook. You take 4d6, which you can see right here. Take 4d6, roll them, drop the lowest one. And so that kind of gives you a little bit, like you have to roll really, really poorly in order to get really bad scores. So I'm going to just roll 3 times, record each result as I roll it. It's going to be strength, dexterity. I'm not going to mix them around. There's a bunch of different variations on this where you can roll 6 times and then put the numbers wherever you want. You can just roll your straight scores, which is what I'm going to do now. There's a lot of different variations on it. But yeah, I'm just going to do roll 46, drop the lowest, and then the first roll is my strength, second is dexterity, and go on from there. Wow, that has never happened. That's crazy. So I got 3 6s and a 1. So I dropped the 1, giving me a starting strength of 18. I have never rolled that well in my life. That is more like it. So I got a 1, a 3, a 2, and a 4. So I dropped the 1. 5 and 4 is 9. So dexterity is 9. Another pretty high one. I got a 3, a 4, a 6, and a 5. So that's 10. That's 15 for Constitution. Not a bad score. Wow. I got 3 6s and a 5. So Intelligence is 18, which is pretty baller. There's much more. I got 2 1s, a 3, and a 5, so that's 8. That's 9 for Wisdom. And then not a horrible roll. We're going to have, I got a 2, a 3, and 2 5s, so that's going to be a 13 for Charisma. All right, so bring this back a little bit. The stats that we rolled: 18 Strength, 9 Dexterity, 15 Constitution, 18 Intelligence, 9 Wisdom, 13 Charisma. So this guy, incredibly strong, incredibly smart, can take a hit. Not particularly well versed in the world, doesn't have very good street smarts, and has a decent ability to influence people. Also kind of clumsy. So my instant thought is I am going to make him a fighter, specifically an Eldritch Knight. Because Eldritch Knights are fighters are strength-based in general. Eldritch Knights are casters that use intelligence. So this would make the perfect Eldritch Knight right here. And depending on the class that I choose for it, or the race that I choose for it, I can make it even more impressive. So with him being really, really strong and really, really intelligent, I think, again, to kind of redefine the character itself, I'm going to look at the races real quick here. I'm thinking I tend to make a lot of humans because they let me put feats in, and I like feats. Actually, I think I'm going to make this a dwarf. This is going to be a mountain dwarf. Because mountain dwarfs get a +2 to strength, bringing them up to 20. And then a +2 to constitution, bringing them up to 17. So yeah, this guy is a powerhouse. He's a dwarf, because he's going to be an Eldritch Knight. Again, I'm basing all of this off the fact that he's very, very strong, hyper intelligent, and intelligence tends to lend itself to spellcasting in general, specifically being a wizard. So we're going to base his class and background and everything off the fact that he's really, really strong and really, really smart. So, background, I got to look through the backgrounds again to see which one I like for this. To really kind of, I'm thinking probably a soldier. if I had to take a guess, because I like how that kind of fits with everything. Sorry if I'm not talking right now. I'm specifically just kind of looking through to see if I can come up with a really interesting character, because again, I'm starting with the traits and everything here and the ability scores, and then I'm trying to come up with something unique in my head as far as something that's not going to be just this kind of cookie cutter thing. And soldiers is too easy. I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to give him the sage. Yeah, I'm going to give him the sage background. Just because a super, so we're going to go sage. And alignment, we'll decide after we pick personality traits and stuff like that on the alignment. I'm leaning towards a chaotic in general, because dwarves in general can sometimes be chaotic, or they can be lawful too, to be perfectly honest. So we'll figure out alignment after I do that. So let's pick out some personality traits that fit from the sage. And again, you don't actually have to use the traits that are the quote-unquote suggested traits. I just like doing it. So one of the things that you get here is, and I think I am going to do, because sages have a specialty, and I'm going to have him be a discredited academic. Is going to be his specialty. Is he was a professor of some note. I'm just going to go discredited academic. So he was an academic, but again, with his very much gung ho, super strong, not super wise, but hyper intelligent mentality. I could see him very much being kind of an Indiana Jones kind of character, but instead of "it belongs in a museum," him being much more focused on the idea of, well, you have to get out into the world, kids, to really understand how it works. And he tends to end up breaking things in his search for knowledge. Is kind of the story that I'm coming up for him in my head as I'm building this. Again, based on his two big things are strength and intelligence, and his two bad things are dexterity and wisdom. So he's kind of clumsy, and he's not particularly street smart. Very much an academic. So it makes sense that he would be a discredited academic, and that gives him a reason to start adventuring, because he used to teach. I don't know what he used to teach. Maybe it was weightlifting. Let's go to the next page, because that's where the next are. So, I just because I think it's a cool, it's a fun personality trait. That I think with the fact that he has, with someone that's incredibly strong, one of the personality types that you kind of think about with strong, because the word is in there, in the name is headstrong, kind of brash, and so with the fact that he's not good at reading people, probably not good at picking up on social cues and things like that. But he is highly intelligent. I'm going to use this personality trait because I think it'd be hilarious. It is, I speak very slowly when talking to idiots which almost everyone is compared to me. All right. So my personality trait, I speak very slowly when talking to idiots, which almost everyone is compared to me. Do you understand? So I think that fits really, really well with a highly intelligent but very low wisdom person where they think they're very, very smart and wise, but they're really bad at reading people, and they're really bad at realizing that they're talking down to people. So almost a Sheldon-like character, except with muscles. If you're familiar with the Big Bang Theory. So let's go ideal. I think I'm going to go for their ideal. No limits. Nothing should fetter the infinite abilities. Is that what it is? Let me look at this again. Possibility inherent in all existence. Possibility inherent. Is that it? No, it's an E. Inherent in all existence. All right. So his ideals. Again, based on the idea, very, very strong character, probably pushes himself to the limit on a regular basis. Would believe in this idea of no limits. Incredibly intelligent, incredibly strong. Nothing should fetter the infinite possibility inherent in all existence. There are no limits to what you can do except the limits that you put on yourself. And when you stop putting those limits on yourself, you become limitless. So I like that ideal. I think it fits with what we have here. And again, it does feed into the three things that I'm focusing on hardcore here are the strength, intelligence, and wisdom. Because you want, your most powerful traits and then your flaw should work hand in hand to create the character itself. So again, there are certain things that certain people can't do or can't do without extreme difficulty. And so this idea of no, there aren't. There's literally nothing you can't do. Does kind of come from a position of what is it? Privilege. It comes from a position, not really all that streetwise, worldwise, where there are people that have limitations put on them that they have no control over. So again, I think that fits really, really well with this. For bonds. Just because I really like what this does, and it gives a lot of character stuff. I sold my soul for knowledge. I hope to do great deeds to win it back. Which might explain how you can have, this hyper strong and hyper intelligent person. And they can base it on, I sold my soul for knowledge. And that could hint to changing from an Eldritch Knight to like a Warlock or something like that. I'm not going to do that because I like the Eldritch Knight and I think it fits here. But you don't have to be a Warlock to have made a pact with a creature. A Warlock, the thing that defines a Warlock is the fact that their pact involves magic. Part of their pact involves their patron giving them magic. And in this particular instance, this guy sold his soul for intelligence so he can have his own magic, so he can deal with his own magic. So I like that. I think there's a lot of role-playing built into that bond. And it also makes for a really, really great secret. If you're looking for something like that. So let's get a flaw. And I think this kind of fits with the story we've already built. So I speak without really thinking through my words. Invariably insulting others. All right. And again, this goes hand in hand with high intelligence, low wisdom. I speak without really thinking through my words, invariably insulting others. It goes with the personality trait of I speak very slowly when talking to idiots, which everybody's an idiot when compared to me. That I think really, really helps define the character. So now we have, again, we're basing the backstory of this character on their stats. So we've chosen their class, their race, their background, all based on their stats. I think alignment should be chaotic. And neutral. Because the idea of selling your soul for knowledge is a very selfish thing to do. But this no limits idea does kind of point to a more selfless view of the world as well. So the fact that you have both this selfish thing that he did and a selfless kind of ideal that he believes in, you can kind of go the realm of neutral, which is kind of neutral can be interpreted a couple different ways. It can be about balance itself, where you always have to you're always going to do whatever you think will keep the scales balanced, or it can just be you don't actually have a specific preference to selflessness or selfishness. You will sometimes make selfish decisions. You will sometimes make selfless decisions. It entirely is based on everything else that's going on, which again, with a very intelligent person, they might be very good, especially with a low wisdom score, a low kind of street smarts, a low ability to read people, maybe even a low empathy. They might be very much, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and be willing to do bad things for good reasons, because from an intellectual perspective, they make the most sense. So I think chaotic neutral fits pretty well. So let's turn this into a real character. We've already decided he's a discredited academic. and sold his soul for knowledge. And I think that's going to be kind of a defining feature of it. You had this incredibly, we're going to say that he was always strong, but felt there was more to the world than the simple life. Let's say, life on the family farm. So, farm boy. Strength, very, very useful when working on a farm. If you've never actually worked on a farm, like I haven't, but I live in farm country. I have a lot of friends that either lived on farms or worked on farms as some of their first jobs. Incredibly strenuous, physical thing to do. So we're going to say this is a farm boy. Always been strong, but didn't really feel at home just being a farmer. One day, again, picking a defining moment. I'm going to go one day. I went into town. Let's go the city. Let's go even more. Let's go Waterdeep. We're going to keep this in Forgotten Realms because, again, it's easier. Going to Waterdeep, City of Splendor, with my father to get supplies and overheard a arcane argument. Fascinated, tried to chime in, but was quickly rebutted and shamed for my lack of intelligence. And that is totally not how you spell rebutted. Rebutted. Sure, we'll go rebutted. So basically, this kid, strong farm boy, decides that, but never really feels at home on the farm. Goes into Waterdeep, which is this massive metropolitan city, and overhears an arcane discussion. You know, two wizards talking about magic and stuff like that. Instantly, he's piqued. He loves the idea of magic. And he tries to go, well, what about this and this and this? And these guys just beat the shit out of him intellectually. They just rip him apart. Really, don't you know this theory and blah, 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 and just make him feel like an absolute moron. And so that motivates him to start. I went home and started studying magic whenever I had free time. But it just seemed too complicated to understand. Then I met a man on the road who offered to give me all knowledge I wanted. All I had to do was sign. Didn't know then I was signing my soul. Well, I don't know where that came from. Away. So he's trying to study magic, but he's having a really, really hard time because he's really not that smart a kid. And so somebody says, hey, I can help you out with this. all you got to do is sign on the bottom line. He doesn't think about it. Again, he's not a very wise person, so he just instantly does it. And he sold his soul to a demon. Years later, I was a professor of combat magic at Blackstaff Tower. Blackstaff Tower is kind of the center of magic in Waterdeep. And so it would make sense that that's where he would go. You know, people go there to learn magic. But was expelled when they learned of my contract. And I'm going to go back up here again to make sure we're fitting the rest of this stuff in. So yeah, then we can just finish it with now I wander the world trying to increase my abilities through training and great deeds, so I may one day win my soul back by beating my master. So now we have this kid who is always kind of dumb, or not incredibly smart, super strong, lived on a family farm, didn't feel like he fit in there, went into Waterdeep, a huge city, you know, insert any city you want here. Goes into a huge city, gets introduced to the idea of magic and the academic side of magic in general and wizardry, and gets treated like absolute crap. He's talked down to, he's insulted, and so he goes home to try and, you know, make himself smarter than these people, and it's just not working. A demon or a devil, I can't remember which ones are the lawful ones. I think they're devils. Comes, makes him sign a contract for his soul, gives him this super high intelligence, but it, you know, comes at a lack of, you know, now he has someone else that owns his soul. He hides it for a while, you know, becomes really powerful, but then it's learned that, you know, he is controlled by a demon. You know, he has a contract with a demon or a devil, gets kicked out, and now he's become an adventurer because, again, we need a defining moment that gives him a reason to be an adventurer. He's traveling the world trying to improve his skills, gain more knowledge so that he can break this contract and get back, hopefully keeping his intelligence, and get back his that. And so the reason that he speaks very slowly when talking to idiots, and he speaks without really thinking through my words, invariably insulting others, is because that's how he was treated by the first wizards he ever met. So this is his flaw and his personality trait are both based entirely on the fact that, again, low wisdom, high intelligence, and because he's basically mimicking the first people he saw that were wizards, he is pretending to be a wizard because in all actuality, in his mind, he's a farm boy. And you already have a really great secret, is that, you know, he sold his soul for these intelligence. That's a phenomenal secret. It can lead to amazing role-playing and stuff like that. And again, this everything was based on basically strength, intelligence, and wisdom is all I really based everything on here. The rest of this stuff will matter in the thing, but I didn't pick any skills or anything like that. You know, to make this really interesting backstory, I just rolled some dice to get this, and then I came up with a narrative that would explain how someone could be incredibly strong, incredibly intelligent, but kind of kind of naive and really bad socially at being able to understand when he's talking down to people, being able to read people and stuff like that. Because he probably never would have interjected himself in that conversation in the first place that got him started down the path of magic. Had he read the situation differently, and had he realized that these people were not the kind of people that you just kind of walk in and start talking to. So yeah, again, another way to build an interesting background is base it entirely on your attributes. The last one we did had nothing to do with attributes. We didn't even fill them out, and this one we did was entirely based on the attributes themselves. And you can add more kind of nuanced stuff to it. Things like the dexterity thing. You can make him clumsy. And stuff like that as you role play the character more, really lean heavily on the attributes. And everything else that we chose was based on these attributes. So we wrote the character itself based on the attributes as opposed to, creating the backstory based on the personality traits. The personality traits kind of were based on the backstory because I already had this idea of a discredited sage, discredited academic, super strong, and I just kind of filled in the blanks with it, and these just kind of helped that to fill in the blanks. So, yes, another very, very different way to build a really interesting backstory. And again, you want to have one or two kind of defining moments for the character. One that kind of is the motivation as to why they become their background, and the second one is what causes them to leave their background and to become an adventurer. You should have at least two. You might have three or four, but there should be at least two that get you into that. And then again, having a secret, always a good thing. It's something that in Open Legend they actually basically require almost when you're building the character is to have a secret. So yeah, again, none of this stuff is incredibly difficult. None of this stuff takes years of acting training or stuff like that. A lot of this was just the idea that I understand. Again, Waterdeep, I know is a big city. I know Blackstaff Tower is located in Waterdeep. Wow, my nose is just itching like crazy. I know Blackstaff Tower is in Waterdeep, and that's where not only is it a magic school, but the Blackstaffs themselves are dicks. They really are. They compared to like the Harpers or anything like that, like they tend to be very standoffish, very elitist, and so that kind of that fit in there. And then just that in in the background here, I sold my soul for intelligence. It fit really well with everything that I was doing. So again, nothing that requires years of study in theater or understanding storytelling. It's basically, I looked at my stats. I know what each stat means. And then I made choices that fit with those stats. And I think, again, this would be a really fun character to play. And I rolled super well. Never in my life did I ever think I would roll 2 18s. Because again, I roll like crap all the time. I am totally keeping these dice. But yeah, so you can do it that way. You can again, there's a lot of different ways to build characters, and there's a lot of different ways. But as far as the backstory of the character, the entire purpose of the backstory is to give the character motivation to do things. Because you should always, your character should always have a reason why they're doing things. And one of the things that I tell people all the time, whether it's in business, whether it's in training, whether it's in role playing, the why is more important than the what. Why you're doing something matters so much more than what you're actually doing, because the why is going to help you make decisions further on. If something goes wrong while you were doing the what, knowing the why gives you the ability to make decisions on how to complete the what the way it's supposed to be completed. And so the same is true about backstories. The why is more important than the what. The motivation is more important than the actions you take. Why you take those actions is more important. Because if you understand the motivation of your character, you can make more decisions. Where if the only thing that you know is that, well, my character likes to hit things. Well, why does your character like to hit things? Well, I don't know. Well, then all you really can do is continue to hit things over and over again. Your character can't grow at all. Your character can't change at all, because all you know is the what. They like to hit things. You don't know the why. And if you know the why, it may be that they, for the entire time you play the character, they still enjoy hitting things. But knowing the why, you choose different things to hit than you would normally. You just don't go around hitting everything. The why tells you what specific things you hit. Or the reason you like to hit things is because you were hit as a child or something like that. And so knowing the why, maybe as they grow and they develop as a character, they become much more pacifist and only hit things when it's an absolute last resort, because they realize that's why they did it before. Or a million other things. Again, that's why I put such a huge emphasis on having a backstory. And your character is going to change as soon as you start playing them. So, and I'll tell my players this too. You know, if you want to change something in your backstory, as long as it isn't like an integral part of the plot that we're going, that we're going through, I'm fine with retconning and stuff like that. Going, you know what? Since I've been playing this character, I want to change a couple of things that haven't come up in the campaign yet. Can we do this and this and this and this? I'm perfectly fine with that. And all of this happened before they started adventuring, before they started going into the world, risking their life, facing danger and death. That changes people. So the things that motivated them here will change as they adventure more, as they get to know other people, as they see how other people approach problems and stuff like that, as they form bonds with their party members and stuff like that. So I put a large emphasis on having a backstory because it gives you a place to start your role-playing. But this is just a start. As you play the character, as you go through the campaign, your character is going to grow, it's going to change, it's going to continue to evolve. And knowing where the character came from will really help you to have meaningful growth for the character throughout the campaign. So that's why I put such a large emphasis on give me a backstory and make it a decent size backstory. It doesn't have to be incredibly detailed. I don't need to know every brother, sister that you ever had or anything like that. I just need to know that your character existed in the world before the campaign started. And I want the why. I want the why you became an adventurer. I want the why to why you chose your background. And it should be an in-game thing. Like, again, we base this off of stats and everything like that, which is a mechanical thing. But I came up with in-game reasons and lore reasons as to why those stats are the way that they are. So, yeah, that's another way to build a character. I've been doing this for about 2 hours. Going to go back to chat real quick. Does anyone in chat have any other questions for me? As far as is there another kind of character? Like I said, there's so many different ways to build characters. you can I could literally build one for every single class, and build it an entirely different way each time. But it all boils down to this same basic formula of start with defining the character using whatever you want to use. You can define the character by their class. Like there, in the player's handbook, there is generally about a page of information, half a page to a page of information before you get to any of the mechanical aspects of the character that just describe the class itself. And there are pages of information on every race, and the backgrounds they have all of this information in it that you can use to help build your character, build your backstory, build the why to your what. The what is always going to be you're an adventurer. Everybody in D&D is an adventurer. That's what it is. The why is more important than the what. And so use all the tools you have at your disposal. And there's even things like if you're not a DM, you can still pick up the hardcover campaigns that Wizards of the Coast publishes, because they have things like new backgrounds. And sometimes they'll have I know Elemental Evil had a new race in it and stuff like that. So even if you're not a DM, you're not going to be running the campaign. You can pick up those books and stuff like that, and there's so much knowledge and background information that they put into these hardcover adventures, like the background of Mulemaster and the background of Hillsfar and the fact that there's an arena in Hillsfar. That comes directly from the Adventure League games that I've run. What was it? Curse of Strahd had a lot of really interesting, cool backgrounds that they created that can, again, give you other options and things like that to make even more unique, interesting characters. And that's what this whole thing is about. Is I want people making interesting characters. I've told many people this exact phrasing. People don't watch Critical Role or Saving Throw or Dice Camera Action because the players are good at playing D&D. They don't. And a perfect example of that is the Critical Role cast, because I love them to death. I think they're amazing people, but they get things wrong. They get things wrong all the time, and it's perfectly fine, because we don't actually care that they play the game right. What we care about is the story. We care about the characters themselves, the growth that they go through, what's going to happen to them, why it's happening to them. Again, the why is more important than the what. The story is more important than the mechanics, and I will always, always, always insist upon the idea that story trumps mechanics 100% of the time. And if it's a story point, and that's what we want to do, then I will change mechanics specifically so that the story point will fit. Because again, story trumps mechanics. So, like I said, any questions? I'm gonna see if anyone's actually still watching. Yeah, so it looks like I got a couple viewers. Do you guys have any questions for me? Do you have a specific class that you've always had a hard time coming up with, motivations or backstories for, or even just, I've created 2 characters already. Just basic D&D questions in general, or RPG questions in general, because like I said, I'm currently running 2 different systems. I run an open legend game for Zelda Universe, and then I run D&D on my channel here, 5th edition. I've run D&D 4th edition. I've played Pathfinder, didn't like it. I've run what was it? The Dragon Age RPG system. I've run that, and there's a couple other ones that I've read the rules and stuff like that. I haven't had a chance to actually run them or play them, but I understand the rules and I like them. So, does anyone have any questions about creating characters, specific classes that you have a hard time either playing or coming up with motivations or backstories for, or just role playing questions in general? You know, how do I deal with a bad DM, or how do I deal with that annoying player that everybody can't stand, anything like that. I'm probably not going to be streaming for too much longer, seeing as it's getting kind of late here. Yeah, what any other questions you guys have just about anything RPG related? The floodgates are open. I'll give you guys a little bit of time since there is a delay. I'm gonna drink something because I'm running out of spit. Straws are your friend. Until there's not a lot, and then straws are the enemy. Okay, so I'm not really getting anything from chat right now. Unless you guys have another question or anything like that, I'm probably going to say call this a night. I am going to be uploading this to my YouTube channel. I'm probably going to put it under the Critting Your Role playlist, because this really is kind of what Critting Your Role was about, was, using acting, the skills I learned being an actor in role-playing and stuff like that. Uh-oh, am I dropping frames? Not really. Hold, please. I just lost my stream for a second there. So yeah, unless you guys have any questions, like I said, I'm going to upload this to my YouTube channel. So if you want to see the whole thing and the explanations and stuff that I went through in it, you can watch it there. I may do another one of these sometime, just because I enjoy doing this. I enjoy building characters and coming up with backstories and stuff like that. That's my jam. That's what I like to do. I do have, well, here, I'll do it this way. So if I do that in this, I do have the Open Legend, where are you? Character Builder. This is an online character builder for Open Legend, which, like I said, that's the second system that I run. I adore Open Legend. It's let's go here. It's a really interesting system to run in general. So if you guys want, I can real quick build an Open Legend character, and because it is a classless system, it is a little bit different kind of feel. And as you can see, there's different things, like you actually have perks and flaws and stuff like that built into it, and it's an interesting system. It is very much tailored towards the idea of story trumping mechanic all the time, and it's a really, really fun system. I have had an absolute blast playing it. So yes, I'm going to ask the chat. Would you guys like to see me build and come up with a backstory for an Open Legend character? Or if I don't get anything from chat, I'm probably just going to end the stream, because it is getting kind of late and I've been doing this for 2 hours. So give you guys a little bit of time to think about it. One of the cool things about Open Legend is it's an open source RPG. It's 100% free. So if you want to play Open Legend, you just go to, I think it's openlegend.com. Yeah, openlegendrpg.com. And they literally have the entirety of the rules there. And it looks complicated, but it's remarkably simple to run. And like I can build bad guys on the fly and stuff like that, which is not something that I can do in D&D. In D&D, I have monster manuals and stuff like that where I will look up monsters and use their stack blocks. But building monsters from scratch in the middle of a game, not something I would ever want to do in D&D. But in Open Legend, I have done it on stream, and it's really, really simple and really, really rewarding. So, yeah, it looks like nobody's really saying anything in chat. So I think that's where I'm going to end it for tonight. So I'd like to thank Wild Bronco for asking questions. Anyone else that tuned in, thank you for tuning in. Like I said, if you want, normally on Wednesday nights, I have 2 different D&D campaigns I run that alternate Wednesday nights. I have one called The Kingdom of the Kale Isles, which has been going on for about 2 years now. They're right about to come to the climax of like the first half of the campaign. And I think they just hit level 9 or 10. And then the other one is going to be a brand new campaign that's starting not next week, but the week after. Set on a different continent. It's in the same world, but a different continent. Very, very different setting. It's a much more gothic horror, kind of Ravenloft-esque or Castlevania-esque society and feeling to it. So, yeah. Please feel free to follow the channel if you want to see me actually DMing and stuff like that, because both campaigns are. I think the new campaign is going to be really, really cool, and the campaign Kingdom of the Kale Isles, again, I've been running it for over 2 years. It's just gotten better. It's gotten better every single time. In every game, they come up with new and ingenious ways to play and get it on. So follow me there. All my stuff is uploaded to my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/TrainerJody. Otherwise, follow me on Twitter. I'm at TrainerJody there. Otherwise, that's all for me tonight, and I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.